Nikkei Asia News Roundup
with Jada and Brian. Welcome to the Nikkei Asia News Roundup with your hosts Jada and Brian,
bringing you the latest updates and insights on the dynamic world of Asia and more.
Now let's delve into the headlines. This program is brought to you by Nikkei.
The People's Bank of China has begun offering interest on its central bank digital currency, aiming to encourage use as an alternative to the dollar for cross-border transactions.
Cambodia has started sealing off casinos and other properties associated with scam centers and is seizing more evidence as it intensifies its crackdown on operators to prevent them from restarting their criminal activity.
Initial public offerings on Southeast Asian exchanges recovered in July-December last year, with the amount up 120% year-on-year, driven by real estate investment trusts and securities firms in Singapore and Vietnam. Companies raised $4.55 billion, more than triple the first half amount.
Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto's aide on climate change, who is also his younger brother, warned stock exchange bosses it was imperative to restore trust and confidence after a warning from global index provider MSCI triggered an equity market rout last week.
Keating Holdings will sell its Four Roses bourbon brand to E&J Gallo Winery of the U.S. in a deal that could reach up to $775 million as part of the Japanese Beer and Beverage Group's efforts to streamline its portfolio and focus investment on its health science segment, which includes health foods.
This week, Southeast Asia's biggest bank, DBS Group Holdings, said its net profit tumbled 10% year-on-year during the last 3 months of 2025, citing a challenging rate environment amid rate cuts by the U.S. Federal Reserve. Now moving on to the next segment.
Nepal's rescue helicopter scam casts doubt on tourism credibility. Nepal police recently arrested 6 operators from 3 helicopter rescue companies over an alleged scheme to stage medical evacuations of foreign trekkers to defraud international travel insurers of nearly $20 million, a case that could significantly damage the credibility of one of the limited lucrative foreign exchange income channels for the country. The operators of Mountain Rescue Service, Nepal Charter Service, and Everest Experience are accused of fabricating or exaggerating medical emergencies to justify unnecessary helicopter evacuations and inflating hospital bills in Kathmandu. Police say at least 317 rescues were staged between 2022 and 2025. The arrests follow an anti-corruption crackdown by an interim government installed after the political upheaval of last September. Investigators found that companies forged passenger and cargo manifests, manipulated invoices, and submitted insurance claims for flights that never took place, according to a spokesperson for Nepal's Police Central Investigation Bureau. Claims were allegedly submitted to major international travel insurers including Allianz Partners, AXA Assistance, World Nomads, and Travel Guard, which operate in Europe, North America, and Australia.
Cuba scrambles to build Asian ties beyond China under U.S. pressure. The Cuban government is rushing to diversify and enhance ties in Asia as U.S. President Donald Trump cranks up pressure on the Caribbean island nation following his raid on Venezuela. While China is a traditional ally and leading source of direct investment, Havana is courting Japan and others, hoping to bring in desperately needed foreign capital by streamlining regulations and procedures. Cuba, under a U.S. embargo for decades, is a single-party communist state with a reputation for tight government control and repression. The watchdog Freedom House lists it as not free, with a score of just 10 out of a possible 100, putting it between Iran and China. But desperate times have prompted some groundbreaking measures from the Cuban government's perspective. Feasibility studies are no longer necessary, and submission of business plans can substitute for investment applications. Havana now also allows foreign investors to hire local employees directly without going through the government employment agency.
And now for news highlights. Today we are sharing a couple of Nikkei Asia's most well-read stories in the last few days.
And the past week has sort of been dominated by election stories and post-analysis stories that Nikkei Asia has covered, because we had two big elections.
We had two big elections on the same day.
Yes.
So those were in Japan and in Thailand.
Yes, and we had a blog running for both of the elections, so that was read well. A lot of people came in to read the latest developments for the both, two of the most
and those blogs are still
watched.
up. They've closed down for updates, but they're still up there if people want to see the developments of how they went. So that's really interesting to follow.
Yeah, how everything unfolds. Which should we start with, Thailand or Japan?
Let's get. Well, we're in Japan right now, so let's do that.
Okay, so just to kind of briefly talk about what the election was about, it was sort of how Takaichi, Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi is, or what her support is. How are people viewing her so far?
Yeah, because the big deal was she's been prime minister for about 4 months now.
Yes, since October.
And in January, she dissolved the lower house and just declared a snap election, which is very soon. I mean, I think the terms for the lower house still had a few years to go. But, of course, prime ministers can call elections, and she did it.
Yeah.
And it was a test to see, if her policies and her popularity would hold up. And the result is they held up very well.
Yes, more than people were sort of expecting, right? Because her ruling party, the Liberal Democratic Party, the LDP, has gained a supermajority in the lower house now.
And I believe it was it's the largest number of seats for them.
Yes,
ever in an election.
Post-war election.
Yeah.
So that means she did even more so well than the Abe administration. So
she's pretty much she considers him a mentor or a model to follow.
Yes, they're both sort of about fiscal spending and expansion, fueling growth. So she's sort of taken or continued that policy from Abe. But so now a lot of the focus is on what is she going to actually do? Now that she has this strong lower house. One interesting thing one of her stories pointed out is, will she become a sort of Trump ally? Because they do seem to be, getting along so far. So
that was
good.
And that was something that kind of, I would say it stirred controversy, but there's been a lot of stuff in the news the past couple of weeks. Trump tweeted or wrote on his social media an endorsement. Which is very rare, because usually you stay out of that kind of thing when it comes to endorsing other members of other countries. That's the other, it's crossing country lines like that. But he did that. But that popularity seems to be the driving force, that she was not necessarily detailing policies, but saying, I'm going to do stuff. I'm going to get stuff done.
Yeah. One is a cut or consumption tax cut.
Yeah, particularly on like food and perishables, right?
So there's an 8% consumption tax, but she's saying, we'll pause it for 2 years. Also, she's vowing to invest in AI and semiconductors and energy. Defense is also a big topic.
Yeah, defense is because the big controversy or thing that's dominated a lot of headlines is the comments about Taiwan and how that relates to China.
So that's also China's a big topic. Takaichi has gained more power now, but there's still the issue with China, because I think one of the key persons from China also reacted to the election, but was saying this doesn't really negate what she said about Taiwan and angering them. But another thing is she's trying to revise the constitution.
That's something that was one of Abe's things he liked to talk about, and other members around him, that rewriting the constitution, which, very brief history lesson, it was written in post-war by the American occupation government and, approved by lawyers and politicians in Japan. And it hasn't been changed since. And so a lot of people have talked about changing, particularly when it comes to defense-related matters.
Yes, there's a peace clause, so that's a big topic. But that actually relates to Thailand, right? Because Thailand, in its election, also took a vote from citizens about what to do with its constitution as well. But in Thailand, so there was an election, and again similar to how it panned out in Japan, but the conservative party, ruling party, won the election. The Bumjatai party. So that's the current Prime Minister Anutin.
It was slightly surprising, if I...
Yes, because the opinion polls or surveys had sort of said the more progressive party was doing well, and it was widening its lead against the Bunjatai. But yeah, it in our analysis, it points out that it seems like Bunjatai, playing up the nationalistic sentiment, did really well for them.
There's elements with the border dispute with Cambodia, and the current prime minister, the one who won, hasn't been in power that long, just a few months as well.
No, because he dissolved also in December. I think he came into power in the summer, maybe September.
Yeah, and part of the deal of him coming into power was that he had to declare an election at some point.
Yes.
And so now it's happened. But in that time, in the 3 months that he was in power, he implemented some... I'm forgetting the details, but it's like economic, not handouts, but like
yes,
boost.
It was a shopping subsidy.
Yeah, that was, and he campaigned heavily on that. He'd run around marketplaces, on the stump, and saying, "We're going to keep that going. We're going to boost it, and all these 3 ministers you all like, they're going to stay in their jobs if you vote for us." And apparently that helped spread the word that people were okay with that, because the impression is that in the 3 months that he's been in power, he's actually done stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're wondering, if we give him more power, maybe he'll follow through on other things. Nice. We'll see.
And that brings us to the close of today's episode.
We look forward to having you join up again for the next edition of the Nikkei Asia News Roundup.
Stay informed, stay curious. Until next time, I'm Jada.
And I'm Brian. See you again, and take care. This program is brought to you by Nikkei.